All right, everyone. Welcome to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown. We are here for episode, I believe, 13 or 14 this week. And we have a bunch to talk about today. We have Astros cheating scandal. We have NHL trade deadline talk. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about today. And it's going to be a great show. Joined, as always, by Mr. CJ Ure and today Stephen Cashin. We're also going to have Colby Guy step in later in the show today. How you doing, guys?
Pretty good, pretty good. Off day for my Florida Panthers. No Miami Heat sports today. Just reading up on some NFL draft stuff as usual. How about you, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back. Coming off a good sweep here for FAU Baseball. And my Tampa Bay Lightning are red hot, 11 straight now.
Yeah, well, we have a bunch to talk about with the NHL right now because there are a ton of rumors going around right now. We actually just had the Brendan Dillon trade break to us. So Brendan Dillon, defenseman on the San Jose Sharks, has been traded from San Jose to Washington. And so that's a big deal for Washington. They get a big defenseman. And San Jose, you know, first of all, the Sharks have, I mean, this has been one of the most tragic seasons I've ever seen from an NHL team. I mean, they have completely crashed and burned this season. You know, they went from being a cup contender every year to now they're one of the worst teams in the league. Almost everything that could go wrong did go wrong. How important do you think that Brendan Dillon acquisition is for the Washington Capitals, Stephen?
I mean, I think it's a good depth role for them. I mean, like I said, Washington has struggled as of late. I think that's contributed due to them feeding Ovechkin the last couple 4 or 5 games because he's trying to get to 700 points. But to add him in the mix with guys like Carlson, you know, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and as long as Washington gets some good goaltending play coming up here down the stretch, I mean, they could be back. But I think it's a good move for them.
CJ, what do you think about this trade?
I think there's a pattern here, and it's a very normal thing that happens with these trades at this time of the year. Championship pedigree teams will add good defenders, big bodies, rarely puck-moving defenders because puck-moving defenders are normally locked up for a while, but Brendan Dillon does a little bit of everything. And he's a guy that did not actually want to leave San Jose. I mean, maybe not want to leave, but it was bittersweet for him. He teared up after the Panthers yesterday beat them 5-3 when a couple reporters asked if this was his last game in the Sharks uniform. He's an amazing locker room guy, and you know, for teams like my Florida Panthers or, you know, teams like the Coyotes and teams like that where they're always on the bubble come playoff time, but don't pull the trigger on guys like this, it's frustrating. As you can see, the Blues, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Capitals, these are all teams that have been in the Stanley Cup or won the Stanley Cup recently, and they constantly add to their back line. You know, you need to constantly get new bodies in a defense and get physical guys, and that's how you win. So I think it's an amazing move, and I think that the Capitals and the Boston Bruins are primed to meet up in the Eastern Conference Finals as of today. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, I would not rule them out whatsoever.
Chokers in the
like
NHL.
A 10-game win streak right now or something like that. So, hey, look, teams that add to their blue line win championships. Defense wins championships across the board in every sport, and it's definitely a thing in the NHL.
Yeah, I would agree. And, you know, we were just talking 15 minutes before the show. You wanted Brendan Dillon on the Panthers, and, you know, they missed out on that. You know, the Maple Leafs, the Panthers are two teams in particular. If they got one, maybe two defensemen, they could be cup contenders. But you look at Toronto and you say they cannot possibly win a Stanley Cup with that defense. There's no way. So some more trade deadline rumors out there. We just heard another Sharks rumor about Joe Thornton being on the trade deadline block. It seems like the Sharks want to give him an opportunity to win that Stanley Cup. He used to play with the Bruins. Looks like that could be a really, easy choice to bring him over to the Boston Bruins. You know, obviously they're the clear team in the East that are going to win or probably going to win the Eastern Conference. And, you know, bringing Joe Thornton over there would be a great veteran move, even though they don't really need veterans. I mean, they have Chara. And so, you know, I think the Bruins are fine in that regard. But I just – so what do you think about the Joe Thornton rumors, Stephen?
Well, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity for him to get out of San Jose and join a cup contending team and have him get in the mix, maybe try to win one before he calls it quits and heads to retirement. But I I don't think you have to force the hand here and force him into a spot where you don't need him. You heard some rumors. Guys were talking maybe, hey, go to Tampa, Boston, for example, like you just said. But do you want to force the hand, add an old guy like that, and let's say you start messing with things, put him on the fourth line, it doesn't work out, turnovers pile
Fair point,
up.
yeah.
Do you want to add that to, the chemistry you got going, the mojo you got going? Like for the Lightning, I wouldn't want him on there because it would kind of just they're rolling. But a team like Boston, I think you could add him and maybe add some sandpaper there on the fourth line and see where it takes you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's also some more trade rumors going around. So say the New York Rangers made a minor trade that actually kind of sets up a lot of other things. So they traded one of their young defensemen in the minor leagues, Joey Keane, backed up a lot because the Rangers have a ton of righty defensemen, Jacob Trouba, Adam Fox, Tony DeAngelo. Joey Keane wasn't going anywhere in that defense, especially because they have Keandre Miller on the left side that still hasn't hit the NHL. Absolute stud. But they traded Joey Keane to Carolina for Gaudier. And Gaudier was in the AHL, Julian Gaudier to be exact. He was in the AHL, 6'4", 200 pounds, righty shot. The reason why I think this means a lot is because if the New York Rangers are going to trade Chris Kreider, they need to get a guy who's the exact same size, or not the exact same size, but represents that size and speed and power that Chris Kreider brings to the New York Rangers. Because if the Rangers get rid of Kreider, they don't have that guy. There's not one guy on the Rangers roster that has that size and speed. And so I think this sets up a Kreider trade. So the TSN just reported it looks like Colorado and Boston are the two top contenders to get Chris Kreider. Which team do you think needs Chris Kreider more? And we'll start with you, CJ.
I actually think that the Colorado Avalanche do. I think the Boston Bruins always have a plethora of guys that are going to get to the front of the net. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to hit you in the mouth. They're good in the corners. Good defensive forwards. You don't stick around in Boston long if you can only of the one way of the game, which is there's plenty of players around the league that are horrendous in their defensive zone. Wire that you are excellent in both ends. That's why they are constantly the first or second place team in the Eastern Conference when the regular season ends. Kreider would be a player the Boston Bruins absolutely want, but
he would be a perfect guy for depth scoring. But I think Lou Lamoriello needs to go into this deadline thinking that he needs to add a scorer, because the way the offense has looked, the Islanders need to add someone who could score goals.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, because their defense is okay. It's good enough right now, and I think the goaltending situation, they always seem to have a guy that gets hot each year. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the Islanders need that second or third line guy to just get in there, add some grit to that Islanders offense. And hopefully the Islanders solve that arena situation soon, because
it's going to be solved in 2021. That arena is being built as we speak.
Yeah, thank God. Playing at Barclays in the old Nassau, it's such a wreck. But so let's move on now to the NFL. And there's a lot of
should be towards the Bayou, should be LSU. Having said all of this, if you were to go to Cincinnati and try to prove everyone wrong, it's not going to work. It doesn't work. Things like that in Cincinnati don't. Players, top free agents, guys like that, they don't want to go to Cincinnati. And when you're in Cincinnati, no record, no matter how much hype you have going into the season, like this is like the best roster we've had. You're always seeing. If I was Joe Burrow, do I want to be locked up in Cincinnati for the next 15 years of my life? 10 years of my life? No, I don't.
I mean, how much control?
Right,
how many years of control is it when you enter the league? Is it like 6 years, 5 years?
It's about 5.
4 to 5 years of entry level.
He graduated Ohio State in 3 years, and then he transferred out.
Sam Darnold is younger than him.
So,
Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow.
Exactly. Joe Burrow is going to be a better player than Sam Darnold in his first year.
Oh.
But Joe Burrow, after saying, I don't care who I play for as long as they pay me, the Heisman Trophy video with that reporter asking him, showing him a picture of himself, and he's like, that's a national championship winner, Joe Burrow, after saying, I don't care who I play for as long as they pay me, the Heisman Trophy video with that reporter asking him, showing him a picture of himself, and he's like, that's a national championship winner,
Yeah.
I've always liked the way Trocheck plays. It just hasn't been working out. Trocheck being moved, not a problem for me. What were the draft picks that we'd be giving
He said
up?
second and third rounder.
And Owen Tippett.
Second and third round is a lot.
For Burns, who's not even good defensively. You're looking for defense.
For people that are casual hockey fans, Owen Tippett is like this just sharpshooter marksman that we have in the AHL. The guy's on an absolute tear in the AHL. He's an all-star, and he's been developing his two-way game. That's the only reason why he hasn't been up in Florida. Brent Burns is an insane player. Honestly, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I want Trocheck to be moved, and I would love to add to the blue line, but Brent Burns is like, we have Ekblad, who's a great puck-moving defender, a big body, doesn't clear the crease. Mike Matheson, great puck-moving defender, big body, doesn't clear the crease. And guess what? We've converted 2 defenders to wingers already. So now we're going to go out and trade that entire that pile of picks and then 2 good players for a guy who was a winger and was converted to a defender. The Panthers need about 2 or 3 defenders on the blue line that literally don't care about scoring goals.
Yep, that's what I was going to say, because Burns isn't great defensively. He's really not.
That's a good question, though. And that trade package would make it. If I'm Dale Talon, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. I'll tell you what, he would do it if you took out Owen Tippett, you put in Mike Matheson, just so he can move that.
Oh, yeah. If you take out Tippett, then that takes away the prospect. Yeah.
Take away. We need to keep Tippett. He's a guy that could literally take one-timers from Barkov for the next 10 years.
Honestly, I would not do that trade whatsoever. Like, Trocheck has been slumping, yes, but Brent Burns' career is on a path to where I would not want to take on that contract and have him on my team. Like, his defensive abilities are already completely gone, and his offensive ability is following with it. Like, it's going to be a huge, huge disadvantage to take on that contract. No matter what the package is, even if it was just a first-round pick, I wouldn't take Brent Burns on at this point. Because there's going to be a point where Burns is going to turn into a liability, and I wouldn't want to worry about it. If I'm the Panthers or literally any other team, I wouldn't want to take the risk of taking Brent Burns on. It would not be a good idea to trade for him.
Well, here's another guy that just got taken off the Panthers list. Marco Scandella traded to the St. Louis Blues. So not that great, but just breaking news here on Strictly Sports.
Anybody that's listening that's a Florida Panthers fan, the names that they're going to be looking at are Martinez, Manson, and Dumba are the 3 players.
Matt Dumba would be nice. Matt Dumba's a physical guy, too.
Yes.
I like Matt Dumba.
3 guys that they'll probably be looking at the most. And for anybody that is a Panthers fan that's listening, we only have about 113 clear cap space left or something like that. So they would have to be moving a contract like a Trocheck.
Yeah, Trocheck's probably going in any trade.
Yeah, Trocheck or Hoffman, and whoever they're getting is going to be an unrestricted free agent the following year.
Right.
So
yeah.
So now we'll go back to the NFL. And another thing I found interesting today was Melvin Gordon a few days ago was talking about where he thinks Phillip Rivers is going to end up. He threw out Indianapolis. And I actually think that really fits for Phillip Rivers, especially because a lot of people have them drafting Jordan Love. And that would be a perfect mentor relationship there. Play Rivers for a year, have Jordan Love sit under him. I think that would make a lot of sense. I don't really see, even though he bought a house in Florida, I don't see Rivers going to the Bucs. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They kind of need to go in a totally different direction here and get a franchise type of guy immediately because, they have the weapons right now. They could throw someone in there. That's a pretty good introduction to the league with some of those receivers that you have. It's not like you're getting thrown into Cincinnati or, somewhere like that. So what do you guys think about Phillip Rivers? Do you think he can still do it in this league? Or is Indianapolis really the only choice for him, especially now that Drew Brees is back?
I like Phillip Rivers. I think he's a good, with a guy like Phillip Rivers, he's at this point in his career, he's like the ultimate Ryan Fitzpatrick type quarterback. That's just going to be a bridge quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if Fitzpatrick has a job, Rivers should.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just depends on how much money he's asking for and how many years he wants, job security, guaranteed money, all that. I would like it if he were to go to Indianapolis. But the thing is I'm kind of confused here because I feel like Jim Irsay and the Colts they're a great organization. They're, for the most part, a winning organization. They might not have ever won something with Andrew Luck, but I had the Colts pegged to just ride out Brissett. Hope to be around 4 wins, 5 wins next
Well,
year.
I had them making
and
the
try to get-
playoffs, and then they fell off at the end.
Yeah, I felt like they would try to go after Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields next year and just really get their guy. But if they're going to go get Phillip Rivers and do Jordan Love, I mean, a lot of people are high on Jordan Love. And Melvin Gordon said they run like the same playbook. So
Yeah, I mean they do because I mean the Colts don't do anything outlandish. It's a very basic offense. They're not really run centric. They're not quarterback centric. They're just a basic offense, and that's
I wouldn't mind seeing Rivers in a dome for eight home games.
yeah,
I mean,
that
the guy
too.
slings
Yeah, I
it.
think that's good for him, and then he gets to play 2 games in Jacksonville, unless one of the
defense.
games is in London. So
Good defense.
who
good
knows about that?
coach. I think it would work out.
Yeah, I do too. I think
If they wanna
especially
keep
for a
the good
year.
times rolling, winning seasons. I think it works out.
Yeah, for sure. And so we have some more NFL stuff here. So Drew Brees is back. He will be with the Saints. So this means Teddy Bridgewater is going somewhere. We talked about before the show, Steven. Teddy Bridgewater has supposedly been offered $30 million. And I said to myself, how is he being offered $30 million when Dak's been asking for $30 million for years and he still hasn't gotten it? I mean, Teddy hasn't started. So what do you make of this whole Bridgewater situation here?
I think he's asking a little too much. I mean, Dak and the Cowboys, they haven't figured out their situation. He's asked for $40 million back a year ago. And I'll give it to Teddy Bridgewater. He's battled some adversity, and he's been through the ringer with all the injuries, and he's brought it back to the level that we thought he could play at. But he had a great stint with the Saints with a lot of weapons and a lot of help around him. So that kind of contributed to him being so successful this year.
Yep.
Not to take away from what he did or what the record showed, but I don't think he's a $30 million guy. I think he's a bridge guy, like we just talked about with Rivers. Go bring him somewhere for a couple of years, get a team back on track, and go from there. And then if you can prove it and continue to have success, then you can build on that.
Yeah, I like the Bears for him. I think the Bears
Yeah.
would fit for a guy like Bridgewater. Because I mean, obviously we all know Trubisky's not the dude. He's just not. He can't even throw right. So, I mean, I look at the Bears and I say that defense with Teddy Bridgewater. So that's a different story
Have a
there.
guy that can throw to his own team and not have a great game and come out and look completely different. It's like Jameis Winston coming out having a great game and then reverting back to it. Great defense in Chicago. Get a guy that can throw 200, 300 yards and a couple touchdowns, and you're in good shape.
Yeah, and he's a mobile guy too.
So for me, for Teddy Bridgewater, 2 things. 1 for Teddy, and then 2, the Bears link. Quarterbacks, I had a conversation with somebody at the office that I work with. We were talking about Dak and how much money he was wanting, and Jameis Winston getting 20/20 eye vision surgery, and what does that do for his value? I don't know, probably nothing. But quarterbacks in the NFL, like an actual starter, where you're going into camp and he's your guy, that's Teddy Bridgewater. You're going to sign him, and that's your guy, right? They're not worth anything less than $24 million. An actual starting quarterback in the NFL is not worth anything less than $24 million. And I do not think that Teddy Bridgewater is worth anything more than 27. Why? He doesn't have a big arm. So if he was to go to Chicago, it's the windy city there. And there's a few plays where you need to get the ball down the field, get in field goal position. He's not that quarterback that's going to air it out. I'm not saying every team needs a quarterback that's going to air it out. He had the perfect setup after Drew Brees was injured. Sean Payton and that defense clamped down, and Teddy Bridgewater, there were a lot of sloppy games. I mean, the Jaguars game, it was like, what, 9-6 or like
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Field
was.
goal game.
I mean, they might have
Field goal
won all
game.
the games, but they weren't.
You're not paying
Yeah.
for a quarterback that absolutely needs a top high-end, top 5 defense in the league that's going to be a field goal type of I mean, yeah, he got the wins. I think he was like 7-2.
Yeah.
7-1,
Yeah,
something
I
like
mean,
that.
he
That's
did,
great.
but that's because of the Saints.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, going back on that, and you look back, they did clamp down on that defense, like CJ just said, and they did win him a couple games where they had to make a few stops there at the end, and they pulled through, and yet he still gets the win, but he did his job. He kept the ship going until Brees got back, and there you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think people forget too. He wasn't a stud in Minnesota either. Like when he was in Minnesota, they made the playoffs. They had that tragic loss to Seattle that final year they played at the College Stadium, and after that he tore. He had the injury and missed a few years, but he was never some top 10 quarterback. I mean, if I'm Dak Prescott and I hear $30 million, I go to Dallas and say, give me 40. I mean, seriously, if Teddy makes 30, Dak's got to make 40 because Dak is a top 10 quarterback in this league. I'm a Giants fan saying that. I think he's number 8. So,
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Teddy Bridgewater in like a Bear system with a really good defense. They would have to draft a weapon. I mean,
Allen Robinson is not enough.
I'm a huge NFL guy, and I can't really name anyone outside Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, and Tyree Cohen.
Yeah, and Montgomery and Cohen aren't even that great. They're just
they're
good
all right.
together as a tandem, but they're not.
A good rusher, but
Yeah.
I agree. They're just not noteworthy guys. But
Agreed.
For Brees coming back to that topic, I'm excited for him. I like Drew Brees. I would love to see him get another Super Bowl. I don't think that roster has it in him. This was the year that they at least get to the conference finals, the NFC finals. They literally lost in the wild card game at home to the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins. The Drew Brees-led Saints will probably be 13-3 next year, an incredible team. But when it comes to the playoffs, they're just not. They just don't get it done. They don't get it done.
Brees is too old at this point, in my opinion. He's just a little bit too old.
Give him I would love to see him give another crack at it. I don't think he makes the Super Bowl. He's coming back to win a Super Bowl.
It's
He's not
past
coming back
that,
to go
especially
13-3.
because I look at the teams. Atlanta's not going anywhere. They came on again late in the season, but we could say the same thing about the year before as well. They came on late. It's always about the starts for them. Matt Ryan is, a lot of people slam on Matt Ryan. He's not bad either. He's a top 12, 13 quarterback, top 10 if they're winning. And he's got a huge arm. He plays in a dome, plays in warm weather stadiums.
He got all the weapons.
Two receivers. Yeah, Julio and Calvin Ridley is a great wide receiver duo. They still have Devonta Freeman at running back. They're set on offense. And that defense, again, 2 years ago it was the injuries that made them miss. This year it was the defensive guys getting back in rhythm, and they didn't have enough time to get back in rhythm. I think this now, year 3 since that playoff year, they're going to be back. I think the Falcons are going to be back. And then, of course, the Bucs with Bruce Arians. If they get a quarterback, we don't know what the Bucs have done yet. If they end up drafting someone, they could be a contender. I mean, we have no idea. They do need a secondary. That's something the Bucs have needed for like 7 years. They need a corner and a safety. They haven't had them in years. It's actually infuriating because it's like the Giants for years. They had an O-line need. They never addressed it. Got Nate Solder. It didn't work. But the Bucs haven't done anything to help their secondary. Steven, I know you're a Bucs fan. What do you think the Bucs need to do?
They need defense.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Bruce Arians came out last week and said it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, and
please
go and fix the and we signed the free agents that are coming up this offseason.
Well, yeah,
and get a secondary. But yes, you need a quarterback that can throw to your own team. You can't have a 30 interception quarterback out there, basically being the other team's best friend.
Right.
And you need to go solve the secondary problems. And after that, get a quarterback, and they'll be in good shape. The defense will come out every year, start out strong, and then there's a lapse in the middle of the year. And then you regress, and then you get back and win more games. But they need to fix the secondary.
I mean, they were 7-9, right? Or 6-10.
7-9.
7-9. I mean, geez, that's a 2-game improvement. You might be in the playoffs.
And you lost one game to the Giants at their 30-yard field goal, and who knows what happens after that.
Yep.
Beat the Rams in L.A. I mean, it was just a very inconsistent team last year. And
I feel like it is way too difficult to let Jameis Winston walk at this point. Why? Because he throws for 5,000 yards and throws for 30 touchdowns. Now, sure, he threw for 30 interceptions. That's terrible, and I don't want him as my franchise quarterback. But as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have to really sit down and say, what if we revamp the defense and maybe make an offensive system where he's not throwing the ball this amount of times in the game? Because Jameis Winston's going to get down the field.
Yeah, he can definitely
get
take
down
you
the
there.
field. So there's also this draft is loaded with running back talent, and maybe they go out and get a guy that can command the ball in the backfield.
They do need a running back.
Don't constantly have to have Jameis Winston throw. All I know is if you're the front office, you're like, I got a guy that can throw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns this season.
Yeah, and then you look back at the Super Bowl winning team they had in 2002. Their defense is great. They could run the ball. They shortened games, and they got defensive stops to win them games. Maybe revert back to that style and hammer up on the defense and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, another thing. I mean, Brett Favre threw a lot of picks. I'm not comparing Jameis to Brett Favre, but Brett Favre threw a lot of picks, and he's a Hall of Famer. So, I mean, you can reduce the picks and be an effective quarterback, especially like you said, CJ. I mean, right now they have Ronald Jones at running back. The running back's not their strength. So, and this is a running back loaded draft. People don't realize that. I was doing a mock draft with JP a few weeks ago, and most of those running backs don't even go in the first round because a lot of teams need things more than a running back this year. Those guys are going to slip second, third round. The Bucs could just end up with a guy just because, I mean, they waited long enough.
Yep.
You never know. So I find it very interesting. And I guess we'll wrap up the NFL by asking our Tom Brady thoughts, the weekly Tom Brady thoughts. You know, to me, I keep teetering back and forth. Where is he going to go? You know, we hear that the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, offered him, what was it, 2 years, 60? Yep. There's no way he goes to play for John. There's no way he plays for John Gruden. If that happens, he's ruining the end of his career. I mean, if you don't think you can win in New England, you're not going to win in Las Vegas. I get it; they have an offense, you know, Waller, Josh Jacobs, and others, but they're not a Super Bowl contender, especially with Patrick Mahomes in the same division. You got to play him twice a year. The Chargers are going to get a quarterback, and if they get a quarterback, they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. So, please, Tom Brady's not going to the Raiders. But then I look at it, where else would he go? If Rivers is going to Indianapolis, Brady's not going to go to the Bucs. So maybe New England is his only choice at this point.
I don't think New England's his only choice. I think if Tom Brady's agent and him were to look at the Chargers and say, I want to play for you guys for a year or two and wrap up my career here, and I want to win without Bill Belichick, they would sign him in a heartbeat.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, they might go draft someone for 15 years or get Cam Newton.
They're still going to draft Justin Herbert, which, before we wrap up the NFL, I got a quick thing to say about
Okay,
that.
yeah,
But
you're fine, yeah.
regardless,
We got plenty of time.
they are going to draft a quarterback. There is no better quarterback in NFL history to sit behind for a year or two than Tom Brady. Imagine that's your system. You go out and you draft a quarterback, and he's going to sit behind Brady for a year or two. That is dream scenario. And Tom Brady doesn't miss the playoffs. He goes to the Chargers. That will be that offense has more weapons from first to third string than he's probably had in his career.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, 3 running backs. I mean, the defense is loaded. Derwin James will be back.
Tight end. He didn't have a tight end this year. He's got Hunter Henry over there.
Yep.
The O-line's not even bad. Oh, then you look at the defensive side of the ball. They've got some studs on defense. And he gets the weather. He grew up in California. I mean, I see it. And not that I'm ever going to read into this, okay, because it could not be true. But a tweet went viral recently in which someone said, if you're a betting man on the odds, put some money on him ending up in a Raiders uniform. Why? Because supposedly this source's parents met Tom Brady while he was looking at homes in that area with his family.
Oh,
now, I'm
okay.
not at all saying that these are true, but
Right.
this is the type of rumors you're going to hear because I personally think the guy is like, I want to do this without Bill Belichick. I want to win and show everyone I'm not a system quarterback. Not that I need to prove anyone. I won 6 rings. I mean, literally, I can't imagine a better scenario than Tom Brady going to another organization, going 13-3, 12-4, going to the playoffs, making a run at the Super Bowl, and doing it all without Bill. I want Tom Brady
that
out
would
of my
cement
division.
him as the GOAT. There would be no debate at that point.
Imagine Keenan Allen getting Tom Brady for a year.
I mean,
Guy's going off. He's going off.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think it would be great. I just think Chargers are really smart. I mean, now the big thing is the Chargers need to sell tickets because they're in the same stadium as the Rams. It's brand new, and that's a terrible look if the stadium's 3/4 empty every week. Yeah, I mean,
Puts butts in the seats.
yeah, I mean, and they were playing at a soccer stadium and couldn't even fill that. And that's like 20,000 people.
Seats, yeah.
So, yeah, it's rough with the Chargers. And so, moving on, the NBA All-Star Game.
Really quick about before we finish NFL. Really quick, Justin Herbert today.
Yep.
The Miami Dolphins somehow came out as they're going to pass on to Tua Tagovailoa.
What?
I texted you that earlier. That the Dolphins are doing a phenomenal smokescreen with this Justin Herbert. So one of the top reporters for the Miami Dolphins, Armando Salguero, posted an article saying the Dolphins are enamored with Justin Herbert at the 5 pick, and he is a clear contender for the Dolphins' choice at the 5, and that they might pass on to it because of his recovery, blah, blah, blah. Amazing smokescreen. You want to know what happened today?
Yeah.
Mel Kiper Jr. gets on ESPN and goes, "Here's my new mock draft. Justin Herbert's going 5 to the Miami Dolphins." If this is truly a smokescreen, it's brilliant. They're not going to have to move up. They're not going to have to trade up.
Are you?
I think Derrick Jones Jr. had an overall better dunk contest, like throughout the 5 to 7 dunks that he did, because Aaron Gordon kept jumping over like Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where
And he
Derrick
brought out the
Jones Jr.
TikTok girls, bro.
legitimately-
Oh my god.
Well, Derrick Jones Jr. legitimately cleared Bam Adebayo, who is 6'10".
Yeah.
He cleared him on his own, and everyone's like, "Oh, Aaron Gordon jumped over Taka."
Well, Aaron Gordon's
didn't.
bigger. Yeah, he also clipped the head. I mean, that's a good point.
Not even did he clip the head. He literally scraped his body parts over him, and he was like bending over at the end. And everyone's like, ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. I'm like, okay, but you're going to sit here and say Derrick Jones Jr. did not have an unreal dunk contest? Kenny Smith came over to him afterward, off the TNT set, and said, "You might have had like the best dunk contest, like overall performance I've ever seen."
I mean,
And
coming
somehow
from the
everybody
Jet,
else is
you
like,
know.
all mad at Dwayne Wade for giving him a 9. I mean,
There were 2 other people that gave him a 9. Too. I
Literally.
mean, you know, like, I mean, it wasn't just D Wade. So, but I get what people were saying. I mean, even me at first, my initial reaction was like, "Oh, come on, D Wade! Like, obviously you're going to pick Jones." But then, as
No one
you know,
wants to
my
see a
emotions
tie, though.
simmered. So let's talk about FAU baseball. 5 quick minutes on it, because me and Colby Guy are doing the game tonight. 6:30 against FGCU should be fun. FAU swept Delaware over the weekend. Had a lot of rain. We were supposed to broadcast, but we had technical difficulties. It should be working tonight, hopefully. And also we have Stephen Cashin doing studio tonight, and Stephen will also be doing a lot of color throughout the season. So, you know, when I look at this FAU baseball team, and especially when you told me earlier that FGCU, which was a very highly regarded program, they're not even in the top 100. FAU is significantly better than FGCU. They have 5 or 6 bats. The one thing that lacks for FAU is pitching.
Yep.
Do you think FAU can, you know, go somewhere this year?
I really do. I looked at the schedule right when the season, you know, was picking up, about to start. And the way the season ended last year, had a great year, 40-win season again. It ended kind of bitterly. You know, you got thrown into that Georgia regional with Florida State and Mercer. Didn't
Yeah,
end
that's
how they
tough.
didn't end how they wanted to, but I think they're ready to come back and watch out because they're right in that top 40 ranking right now on, you know, D1 Sports. They had them ranked up there, and NCAA had them like 38, I believe. But if they fix that pitching and that pitching can refine itself, I mean, their offense they're batting like 350 as a team. Last year they batted 340 as a team. Watch out because that offense is powerful, and they're not afraid of anyone anymore. They beat Florida last year, and
And they play them again this year again
play
in
them again
West
this year.
Palm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got them in Miami back-to-back coming up here March 3rd and 4th.
Yep.
But they're going to be an exciting team to watch. And if they win the games they're supposed to, they'll be back in the postseason again.
Yeah, and the thing about that pitching staff is that there's a lot of young guys that haven't even pitched yet, so we don't
Yeah.
really know. I mean, there could be some gems in there that we don't even know about yet. So, Colby, you're doing color tonight. What do you think the FAU needs to concentrate on going into the FGCU game tonight?
I think that they just need to keep the bats going and try to run up the score tonight. We did a really good job of putting up a lot of runs against Delaware, even with the whole weather problems, to just show the country how powerful of a team we are offensively. The pitchers have been good. The pitchers did fairly well in that Delaware series as well. So just keep putting the foot on the throat and showing the country that we're a top 25 team and that we can make the playoffs.
And I think we can be. So, all right. So I've been waiting for this.
4th years too.
Huh?
A lot of these guys are 4th years on the team.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is
they've
like the
played
last
together.
run for this particular group. So I think they're going to be motivated by that too.
They
That's a
beat-
good point.
We beat UF. Did we beat FSU last year?
They lost FSU, but they played them close. It was just FSU was riding such a hot streak at the end there, and it just kind of run to the wrong team at the wrong time.
We normally
right.
always beat UCF.
Yeah, we beat UCF
Oh, yeah.
last year. They're beating the non-conference opponents that, you know, a few years back you think, wow, that
You
could
had
be
no
a tough
chance.
game. But now you look at Florida and Miami and you go, we can really win that game. You
I
know?
always go back to that losing the conference championship last year because
Yeah.
winning that would have given us a little bit of an easier pool,
Yeah.
like a bracket
Yeah.
group to navigate through. What was it last year? FSU, Mercer, and then
Georgia, who
Georgia.
was number 6 in the
And
country. at the
tough.
time.
And
Way
really
too
in the
tough.
Conference USA this year, it's really only Southern Miss, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
really no one else in there.
The preview I read up on a couple weeks ago, it's us and Southern Miss.
Yeah.
They think it's going to be one of those two teams. Old Dominion could be a dark horse if they can figure some things out hitting wise, but other than that, it should be FAU and Southern Miss in the final again. And 2 years in a row we've lost to Southern Miss. I mean, this year I think they're out for vengeance, and if they stick to their game, it could be dangerous.
Absolutely. So I've been waiting. I've been keeping this all in for quite a while. So, this Houston Astros cheating scandal has been something that just can't get out of my head because just the ineptitude and incompetence of Ron Bamford just keeps presenting itself day by day. And, it's ridiculous because he's really undermined the sport in the last few days. First of all, he called the World Series trophy a piece of metal. Are you kidding me? I mean, you're denigrating the trophy that people work for all year. The trophy might be, because I'm in a sports chat. They were like, oh, the trophy's the worst in sports anyway. That's not what the trophy looks like. It's what it represents.
It's the concept.
And he's denigrating the concept of winning, like you said. So I just wrote a list today. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I wrote a list of everything that Rob Manfred said in the last few days and everything Carlos Correa and Jim Crane have said. So first, to start off the press conference, Rob Manfred made fun of the initial allegations of cheating. He said, well, when we first got the allegations in 2017, all people were saying when they called us was, we know they have our signs. Well, that should be enough to maybe start an investigation, would it not? I mean, he's basically saying that the people that call him that are working in Major League Baseball that's not a valid thing to call about. That's absolutely something you're going to call about if you think people are stealing your signs. And another thing about this, he says, I'm a process guy. Well, if you're a process guy, the process doesn't work that well because it took Mike Fiers to get you to find anything. I mean, you have all the resources in the world. You couldn't have gone and found that video evidence yourself. It took Mike Fiers. It took a human testimony to get this to be pushed forward. Absolutely ridiculous. And how could you trust your process if Mike Fiers is the one it's mind-boggling to me. He also made fun of one of the journalists, the one that wrote the Wall Street Journal article about Frank Vigola. Frank Vigola is the one who created the codebreaker system in the front office. By the way, still employed by the Astros. He said he didn't punish him because he was pressured by the players that didn't get suspended. So that's just it's an invalid argument to begin with. Also, he made fun of the journalist for even publishing the Wall Street Journal article, even though journalists' job is to get the truth out. He was mad because what the Wall Street Journal article was the email with Rob Manfred saying everything wrong that the Houston Astros did, and Manfred doesn't want that out there because he wants to protect the league. And so other than that, he said in a perfect world he would have punished the Astros. He's the one that has that choice. You're the commissioner of baseball. You're the one who says whether they get punished or not. So in a perfect world, they would have gotten punished if you actually had the cojones to do it, Manfred. You should have done it because the whole league wanted you to. He said, and this was the one that mind baffled me the most. He said, when the Astros players, when they were interviewing them, he said they were so adamant about 2017 and 2018, about how wrong they were. And they were equally as adamant about 2019 and them being innocent. That's like saying, oh, yeah, the guys that robbed the bank, they just admitted to robbing the first two, but they didn't admit to robbing that one. I really believe them because they told me they robbed the other two banks. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? How do you trust the people who cheated about whether they cheated in the third year or not? I mean, we have evidence, not clear evidence, but they use buzzers, okay? You don't run around the bases after you hit a walk-off home run to send your team to the World Series telling them to take your shirt off. Please, Altuve. And Correa the other day saying it's because of a tattoo, an unfinished tattoo. What kind of excuse is that? I mean, and if that's the case, Altuve's a wuss. I mean, you don't want your tattoo to be shown? Who is that really what he's thinking about in the bottom of the ninth inning? Oh, man, I hope they don't see my tattoo, man. They'll make fun of me.
Walk-off homer.
Yeah, you're that sensitive? Series. I mean, are you kidding me? So he also he said in the press conference, he sat down 29 teams and said, you can't hit them with pitches. Now, I'm not one of the people that says, oh, you should be hitting people with pitches. If you miss and hit them in the face, it could kill them, right? It's a 98-mile-per-hour rock. It hurts. It could injure you. I'm not for it. But to go out and prevent teams from doing it is a little ridiculous to me because it makes the Astros appear untouchable. Not only did they not get suspended, but now they can't even be hit with a pitch without someone being punished. I find it a little ridiculous. He also said he doesn't like the back and forth between the players. I don't think he likes it because he knows he's wrong. All these players are calling him out. That's why he doesn't like the back and forth. It's because he's wrong.
Yeah.
He also said in the press conference he doesn't really know about the buzzers. If you don't know, then why are you saying that they didn't do it? Why did you believe the Astros so much about 2019 and you don't even know yourself and you're the commissioner of the sport? One other thing, I mean, he said, and this was the other one that just made me scream in the air. He said, the public shame is enough of a punishment for these Astros players. Do you really think they care what these reporters and fans think of them? They got their ring, they got their championship, and that's all that matters to them. They don't care about public shame.
The rings and the title still, and the whole system is like proven to be flawed. If you're not going to punish the players, it's an organization for a reason. If your higher ups are coming at you with, hey, let's start stealing signs, let's take, the other teams, everything that they're trying to beat you with, and now we have all that information, you have to punish everyone involved, from the owners, whoever's facilitating that towards the bottom, which is the players who are going out there and taking it and stealing signs and going through with it. Punish them. You should suspend guys for being responsible for that. And him not taking a stance on that and saying, "Oh, it's don't punish the players," you're wrong.
Yeah, he says he's a precedent guy as well. He said, "I'm a process guy and I'm a precedent guy." Well, I mean, what else could there be to set the precedent other than people using videotapes and buzzers to cheat in baseball? Yeah. I mean, does there need to be a precedent? That should set the precedent right there.
And then you look at guys. I mean, here's an example. Pete Rose is banned from the MLB for betting on games,
which is now legal.
Which now is legal, and now and look at the scope of things. Is that as bad as stealing signs electronically and winning World Series?
Not even close.
Because you're untouchable. It doesn't compare.
It doesn't. Absolutely not. And like you have Justin Verlander for all these years walking around complaining about everything, and he hasn't said a word. Mm-hmm. He said the other day, he's like, I can't comment on what other teams do. That's all you do, Verlander. Yeah. All you do is talk about other teams and complain about them. It's
now
just
he knows he's in a hole.
And
he can't say anything.
He can't. Absolutely. He complained about juiced balls.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Everyone was using the juice balls, Verlander, so it's all relative.
And then you got guys like Mike Trout coming out saying, I lost respect for these guys. And, hey, I'd love to know a fastball is coming right here, middle of the plate. I'll hit that thing 500 feet. They're Major League Baseball players. If curveball's coming here, I'll lay off it because I know a fastball's coming 2 pitches later.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's made the game very skewed, and it's unfair. Players should be punished, and that's the bottom line.
So I'll pass this question off to you guys, and I don't even know this because I want my emotions to simmer down before I really evaluate this. Is Manfred the worst commissioner in sports?
Right now, yeah, because
worse than Goodell, because he's had some pretty bad moments too. I mean, I don't know.
Moments, but
and Bettman. But here's the thing about Bettman: he might be not a nice guy, and people don't like him as a person, but he does his job. Yeah. I mean, he stands up for his side. He just appears to be arrogant when he does it.
Yeah, suspension. I mean, you look at the NHL. Suspensions are handed down the right way. I think now, the league's run in a great way. There hasn't been too many problems recently. But look at baseball. You're not doing. This is one of the biggest scandals in sports as of late. You've had the Patriots Deflategate. A couple years back, punishments were handed down there. I think some people were iffy about how it was handled, but right now you're having a major scandal that broke, and nothing is being done about it. People are calling MLB a joke. It's a dying sport. People can argue about that at another time, but you're making the game look really bad as we're jumping into another season coming up here in less than a month.
And this Friday, or it's either this Friday or next Friday, the Red Sox investigation.
Yeah. I think he is the worst commissioner in sports at the moment. Yeah. You can't go up and say that your World Series trophy is a piece of metal. You can't be doing those kinds of things. It upsets people. It upsets the fans. It upsets owners. I think he's dealt with this cheating scandal so poorly. I think a lot of these guys need to be suspended for seasons, if not banned lifetime. I think he has tried to sweep everything under the rug. And I genuinely think that he knew a little bit about this way before all this. And I think he's just doing a terrible job dishing out punishments or being firm on what needs to happen. The Astros apology was just god-awful. It was a terrible apology. There's still players coming out and making BS excuses, like saying he had a bad tattoo and he didn't want people to see it. You kidding me? And this commissioner goes up there and he's like, the public humiliation's enough. It's enough for them.
They don't care.
I'm not gonna take away this piece of metal from them. Like,
it's disrespectful
it
to
is
their teams.
beyond. Aaron Judge. I'm not even an Aaron Judge fan. Aaron Judge should have got the MVP that year.
Absolutely, he deserved it either way.
The MVP away. Nick Markakis said it best. Those guys should be in a world of hurt right now because they're messing with people's careers. I forget the pitcher's
Aaron
name.
Judge would have had a contract extension by
Trevor
now.
Bauer said
Absolutely, with an
Trevor
MVP.
Bauer went off on it.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer went off of them. There's a pitcher who is suing.
Yeah, Mike Bolsinger.
The
Yeah,
MLB
and that's
and
what
the
I was talking
Astros.
about when this all broke. I
Because
said,
he feels
He's
like
got-
he feels like he'd still be in the MLB.
You got
He got
pitchers.
shelled. He got absolutely shelled by the Astros.
yeah,
And guess what? It wasn't even his fault. They knew what was coming.
You got pitchers coming in, young guys. Think about it. If you're a 20 to 23-year-old guy coming out from AAA, and you go to face the Astros at home, and you get lit up all of a sudden, your confidence gets shot, and you have no idea what happened. But the other side knows what happened. They're taking your job away. Like, that's what you've worked your whole life to do, and they probably cost a lot of people jobs in professional baseball.
absolutely.
And they shouldn't be able to live with themselves about it. I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, I mean it, and you still have Correa talking to Bellinger, and he's like, well, Bellinger, you threw the ball away, and we scored 2 runs. It's like, well, you guys knew every pitch that was coming, so what are you talking about?
You may not want to lose everyone's respect. If you want to start trying to fix things, why don't you come out and say, hey, you know what? We own up to it. We apologize. There was something going on. If you keep bearing it, you're going to lose respect. You're going to lose control of the sport because guys are still going to come out and hit people regardless next season. Mark my words, first game back, Altuve or someone's going to take one in the back.
Oh yeah,
It's going to happen.
they
It's
deserve.
gonna happen a lot of
I
games.
think they deserve some in the ribs. I'll say that.
And someone's going to get suspended for it. And personally, being a pitcher growing up in high school, unwritten rules, those get broken, you're going to take it out.
I mean, I can't even imagine what's really going to happen. When the Yankees go to play the Astros, there's going to be a bench brawl. When the Dodgers go to play the Astros, there's going to be a bench brawl.
Well, the Dodgers, luckily, they're in different leagues, so they won't.
Yeah, they don't face those
Oh,
here.
gosh, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
well, the pain in the butt thing for me is Astros don't go to Yankee Stadium till the last week of the season. Which, I mean, I guess right before the playoffs, that's going to be like a dangerous place to be if you've ever been to Houston, Texas, and you're an Astros fan. Like if an Astro fan shows up in Yankee Stadium, I'd be fearful for their
I would
safety.
not
To be
show up
honest
for
with you.
Astros.
And I will say the fans didn't know of any of this, and there's a lot of them that don't stick behind what's going on here. I personally I'm a diehard Panthers, Dolphins, and Heat fan. I'm a Marlins fan, not a diehard though. If I found out that the Panthers or the Dolphins or the Heat won a world championship and they were cheating, I would be literally embarrassed. I really would. There are some people online that are like, get over it.
Yeah.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
I had some
blah,
moron
blah, blah, blah.
talk to me on Twitter. He added me, and he was like, I forget what he even said because I just kind of laughed it off. And one of his tweets on his account was, "Oh, it's like getting caught with a speeding ticket. Everyone speeds on the highway, but it's just who gets caught." Like, what?
You can't compare that at all. I mean, think about the teams that go 162 games through a whole 7-month grind, and then it get taken away because somebody wanted to cheat. That's the moral of the story here.
But
Yep.
yeah, I think the commissioner's doing a horrendous job of dishing out punishments or demanding specific things being said. I think he's botched the apology even further, and he almost made that apology from the Astros look good because he looked so bad in front of the mic. And you know what? A lot of the players hate this playoff format. It's just a dark time for baseball, and he's not doing anything to help himself or the league, and the season's about to be here.
Yeah.
They're gonna
And we're going to have
lose
to
a
deal with
lot
the
of
Red Sox
viewers.
fallout because Cora's probably now. If he does not ban Cora for life, if he did it in Houston and Boston, then he's really soft.
Yep.
And that's how I'll end the show today because we're over the time and we have to prepare for a game tonight. So tune back at Owl Radio at 6:30. FGCU at FAU. I will be on the call doing play-by-play. Colby Guy will be doing color. Hope you catch it. Thank you guys for listening to Strictly Sports with Jacob Brown. I do not have my laptop to edit the show. So it's going to go on YouTube. It just is going to be a little bit later than usual. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next Tuesday.